And I say, my name is Clay Fuller. I'm in the Air Force, and all the Marines are like, oh my gosh, an Air Force officer, right? And so they try to redeem it at one point and say, okay, well, tell me what you fly. So about that. And I fly a desk. I'm a lawyer. But there was a multi-year course. And when I was going through that course, it was when I got my cancer diagnosis. So I was diagnosed with cancer at 31 while I was on active duty, and went through an incredibly tough surgery and ICU stay at Walter Reed. And I feel like I got the best compliment after recovering from cancer and going back to that course that a Marine could ever give anybody. I show up to the course, and one of those guys that was in my initial meeting when the course started and was skeptical of me just walked up to me, shook my hand, and said, "I'm glad you're above ground." So I'll take it. I feel like that's a really good compliment from a Marine to an Air Force officer. But I loved my military career. When I was in the ICU, so my wife stayed there the entire 2 weeks in a recliner. I tell people I'm quite literally alive because of everything that my wife did during that time period that I was sick. And we talked about if God was going to give me more time to be on this planet, how did I want to use it? Because I really felt like God was giving me additional time that I didn't necessarily deserve. And that was really my start of my born again life, to dedicate whatever time period God gave me after that. I grew up in the church, but an experience like that really focuses you on what God is calling you to do. And Kate and I had talked about what we were seeing in North Georgia, especially with my generation being kind of decimated by the methamphetamine and opioid crisis. So I didn't know where I could have a positive impact on that, but wanted to come and do something about that and work on that. So I came back in 2015, and that's when I started prosecuting cases in the Lookout Mountain Judicial Circuit. And I was really good at putting drug traffickers away, rapists, murderers. It was something that I loved. You may see an ad out there from Sean Harris, which is a complete lie and fabrication about my career. One of the cases that I made my early part of the career is the individual's name was James Works. Not to be too graphic, but he was raping women in Northwest Georgia and Chattanooga for almost 3 decades. And he was somehow continuing to get away with it. The cases would fall apart because his whole MO was to target vulnerable women in our community, namely women that had substance abuse problems. And those are traditionally victims who are very skeptical of the criminal justice system, and it's very difficult to get them to come in and testify. So I started with the DA's office in 2015 and inherited a case against James Works. And my job, again, there were about 8 to 10 victims over the 3 decades that I had to build a relationship with, who were completely skeptical of the criminal justice system. And I sat down with all of them to build rapport, to get their trust, to make sure that they felt comfortable coming in and testifying, because they were legitimately afraid of this individual. They felt like the criminal justice system, if they put the risk to come and testify against this individual, we better get a guilty verdict. So I was able to finally talk to these women. The main charged victim, she kept going back to this individual, and she was just completely in his grasp. And it's very difficult to prosecute a rape case when your victim goes back to the defendant. And so it took me a couple of years to get all of these women in, to talk to them and convince them and get them into the courtroom. It took me about a year to find my charged victim, to track her down, the case into a courtroom in March of 2018. And it was a week-long trial. We had all these women were so courageous and taking the stand. And I had 2 detectives who were some of the best detectives that I ever worked for, that created a just lockdown case. And my job at that point was just to make sure I kept it on the rails and presented it and make sure that the victims testified. And at the end of the case, we were able to get a conviction. And I brought all these women into the room after the conviction. And one of the victims just was sitting there and just threw up. And I told her I'd seen tears of joy before, but I've never seen throw up of joy. And these are people who I've stayed in touch with since 2018. And we talk about when my opponent has a tagline like leadership matters. It frustrates me to see someone who says that and is out there lying about my career and re-victimizing these women, because that person is going to spend the rest of their life in jail, not only because of the work that I did and the detectives, but because of the courage of these women. And they should be, their most difficult parts of their life should be being dragged up into a political campaign. But I'm very proud of that case. And at that moment, I had applied to go and work for the Trump administration. When I was telling you that one of the victims threw up, that was about 4:30 on a Friday, and I hadn't checked my email the entire time. So I ran down to my computer just to run through the email that I had. And there was an email from the White House that said, hey, if you want to come and work for the Trump administration, we need to hear from you by close of business. So I fired off a quick email, said, yes, I would like to go and work for President Trump, do an interview. And the interview process was you were interviewing for 14 positions in this program called the White House Fellows Program. And they were bringing about 30 people up to Washington, D.C. And when I get up there, the first person that I meet is a guy that went to MIT at 15. I did not go to MIT at 15. And then the next person that I met, I drove up there. So I figured I probably had the longest travel time of anybody that was going up for an interview. And when I got up there, I met another individual and I asked him where he's coming in from. And he said, Afghanistan. I was like, okay, well, you win. He said, well, what took you to Afghanistan? And I was like, well, I'm a Navy SEAL. Like, zero shot at this. I went to MIT at 15 and a Navy SEAL, so I've got no chance. But went in there and told my story, that I was a cancer survivor and that I was doing everything I can to end the methamphetamine and opioid crisis. That was my white whale that I was fighting each and every day. And I incredibly got selected to be a Trump appointee. And one of my favorite stories out of that year with President Trump, so there was one person that I worked for in particular. His name is Ambassador Robert O'Brien. He was the last national security advisor for President Trump in the first Trump administration. But when I worked for him, he was the lead hostage negotiator. So I don't know if y'all remember, there was a pastor that was in jail in Turkey. He was the main person that got that pastor out, and that was his job. And so one of the things that he wanted to do, because when Americans are taken hostage, it's our special operators who are often part of the recovery efforts to rescue people. And so we wanted to see special operations programs across the world. They asked me to plan a trip to West Africa. In particular, they wanted to go to a country called Mali, and I had no idea. I Googled Mali, M-O-L-L-Y. That's not how it's spelled, it's M-A-L-I. I knew nothing about West Africa or the country of Mali. But when I was looking up information about the country, I saw that Timbuktu was there. And so I went to my bosses and Ambassador O'Brien and just asked them, hey, would y'all be interested in going to Timbuktu? And they asked me, is there a reason that we would go to Timbuktu? I need to justify this trip. I found out that there is a UN mission that's in Timbuktu. And part of the work that they do is trying to make sure that they're recovering foreign nationals. It's kind of like there will be an Italian who will decide they're going to take a bike trip through West Africa, and then they'll be kidnapped by a terrorist organization that's there. So please don't ever take a bike trip through West Africa. I don't recommend it. But so there was a mission-related reason to go, plan the trip. The only problem was how to get there. So the country of Mali, you kind of think of it almost like the shape of New Jersey. And you have the capital, Bamako, down at the bottom of the country. And then you have a Texas-sized portion of the country in the middle, which is completely ungoverned and ruled by terrorist organizations. So we definitely had to fly over that. And I was lucky enough to find a Canadian C-130 mission out of Senegal. They needed training hours. And there was one request that they made was, if I could get them a bottle of Jack Daniels, they would definitely take us up there. And so the important question that I had for them was, are y'all using the bottle of Jack Daniels before or after the coffee? They promised me it would be after. So I was able to get them that bottle. We flew into Timbuktu. And so I try to tell people the Trump White House and Ambassador O'Brien took me from Timbuktu to back. It was an incredible experience working for President Trump for a year. And one of the full circle moments in this campaign, Ambassador O'Brien was one of the first people to endorse me in this race. And it meant the world to me because he's someone that I look up to, someone who has really worked hard to make sure that we define President Trump's peace through strength, national security policy, and he's done an incredible job doing it. And he gave me one warning after President Trump endorsed our campaign. He called me up and said, "Hey, do you know who the last person that I endorsed was?" I said, I'm sorry, I don't. And I was like, "I've only endorsed two people. I've endorsed you and I've endorsed JD Vance." And so it's like, well, that's a good sign, I feel like, he's not a pretty good hat, even though he's a Marine. So just a lesser surface. But one of the things that I really want to try to tell groups is my heart and why I'm in this race. I don't care about becoming a social media star. I don't care about being famous. I don't care about having a title or being powerful or anything like that. As you saw with that James Works case, the only thing that I've ever cared about in my career is righting wrongs and righting wrongs for the most powerless in our community. And the final story that I'll give you is kind of related to that mission of why I'm in this race, because the bottom line is, if God calls me home in 24 hours, I want to go up there and say, that extra time that you gave me, I did everything I could for what I think you left me there to do, to improve North Georgia, to improve the communities that I love. And that's something that I wake up each and every day thinking about. And each and every day that hopefully is in God's plan for me to represent you in Congress, that's the only thing that I'm going to be asking. I'm going to be reaching out to community leaders like Linda, asking, what do you need? How can I help? What can I do? Because I want these communities across Northwest Georgia to have long-term economic viability. And I want to do everything I can to make sure that we are developing in the way that we want to as a community. So I'm going to be a warrior for you when I'm in that position and doing everything I can to help communities and help you personally. And the personal story that I tell, President Trump came down to Rome just recently to support our campaign. And during that time period, so I've kind of told people this a couple of times, but I wish my wife was here so y'all could meet her. She's the most incredible person on the planet. She's my favorite human being. And when you meet her, most people are like, she's the one that should be running, not you. I agree with it. But I don't know for you and spouses, I'm sure y'all all had that moment where you looked at your spouse and you could tell your spouse was going to do something, and the spouse gives you that look like whatever you're thinking about, don't do. So the way that the White House operates is they kind of give you what you want to say and what you're supposed to say, and then kind of the timeline to do it. So I did that for the first part of the Trump event, and I sat down. And I wasn't expecting President Trump was going to call me back up a second time. And it's always a dangerous thing to give a prosecutor a second chance to speak. And I was walking up to the stage and I could see my wife just giving me that look like, whatever you're thinking of, do not do. Don't do it. But what I learned when I was heading to this event, my 15-year-old daughter, I wanted my family to be there to see it, because this was an incredible moment for me personally and for our family. And it was a historical moment. Is the greatest president in our nation's history, in my opinion. I wanted them to see this historical event. And so I'm going up there, and my daughter had gotten detention for coming to this event. And I thought that was wrong. And so I go up there, and first I turn to President Trump and I tell him, the endorsement that you gave me is the honor of my lifetime. But I've got one more favor to ask, and you can watch the video. You'll see his face like, oh my gosh, what is this idiot about to do? I might just take back an endorsement right now. And I turned to him and say, look, my beautiful daughter, Tallulah, she's here, and she got detention for coming to see you. And you can kind of see his face change. He starts to laugh and said, if you could do me one more favor, is just give my daughter a presidential pardon. A couple of things from that interaction too. The steel for where he's given the address, it was really hot in there. He'd probably been speaking for about 60 minutes at that point. He's nearly 80 years old, and he has just boundless energy. And he turns to me when I'm walking off stage to ask my daughter's name. And it's an unusual name. It's Tallulah. I think it's a beautiful name. And as I'm walking off, I'm like, there's no way he heard that or got that. And he turns right to the microphone, gets up there, and it goes, Tallulah, where's Tallulah? And my daughter stands up and he gives her full presidential pardon right there and says, tell your teacher I said it's okay. And I think that's something that's lost about our president. Just first, how genuinely funny he is, how much he cares about people, and just the absolute humanity of this person who is in the most stressful job in the world, how he can take a moment just to have this beautiful interaction for my family. And the thing that I try to present to groups is to tell them this, what I did is no different than what I will do for each and every one of you. I care. I obviously love my daughter. I'm going to care about each and every one of you. I'm going to care about these communities. And it doesn't matter how trivial the problem is or the issue is. As trivial as it is for my 14-year-old daughter to get detention, I will fight for each and every one of you and as the most powerful man in the world to fix a wrong as I see it. That's what that story stands for. And if any of y'all ever need anything, you will be able to get in contact with me and I'll do everything I can in my power to fix it, because that is the only reason that I'm in this race, is to make your lives better, to make your community better. And I'm asking for each and every one of you to get out there on April 7th, tell all of your friends, all of your network. I know during this weekend, maybe some of y'all will watch March Madness, so during a commercial, try to text 10, 15 people, tell them, hey, reminder, early voting starts on Monday, get out there and vote. Because the stakes are extremely high. The mask on Sean Harris has finally come on off a little bit. There are a lot of people that had no idea that he was a Democrat, but he's a Democrat that's going to take your guns. He's a Democrat that is going to be pro-choice and wants to see more abortions. He's going to be a Democrat that wants to be involved, getting government involved in your life, make it more difficult for your money to come back to your pocketbook. And there's no better image than what we saw during President Trump's State of the Union. Do y'all remember what the Democrats sat in their chairs for? Yeah. Besides just the basic question of saying, can y'all stand for putting Americans first before illegal immigrants? It breaks my heart what we're seeing. We saw an Air Force veteran who was just murdered by an illegal immigrant in New York City. We saw Sheridan Gorman, who was just murdered in Chicago by an illegal immigrant. That's who Sean Harris and the Democrats are putting first. Those are the stakes. So I want y'all to get that message out, because we have to stay motivated. We have to get out there and vote on April 7th. And then y'all have to come back and continue to win this on May 19th. So just please make sure y'all are getting that message out to people, because I know it can be very confusing. But we've got to start motivating people and making sure that they have a plan, because also, I don't know if it's true for Polk County, but does Polk have spring break on April 7th?
That's what I heard.
They do? Okay. Yeah. I know it's true for Paulding. I know it's true for Cobb and Floyd as well. So there may be a number of people in Polk County who just won't get to it this week and will then head off to spring break. So just please, all of those people in your life, reach out to them, say, hey, if you're heading to Florida on April 7th, that's great. But just make a plan this next week to go and early vote. And remember, you should rightly be focused on the Easter holiday, but Good Friday is Friday, so there's only 4 early voting days. So we can't get complacent. We can kind of get complacent sometimes when President Trump isn't on the ballot. So just please make sure you're reaching out to all your friends and family to make sure we're getting out that vote on April 7th. We're going to go out and win this thing, and then I'm going to fight for you each and every day on Capitol Hill. So happy to take any questions that you have, and look forward to representing you here soon on Capitol Hill. So thank you.
I'll start out with a question. By the way, you have a beautiful family and you have beautiful children, and I know you want a future for them. And when I look at our federal deficit, it looks, honestly, what's the plan? Like, it looks like we're going to default.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, first up, we have to be honest that the debt is an existential long-term crisis. We have to be honest and truthful about that. And there's a lot of education that we have to do regarding the threat that's going to pose long-term for the future of our kids and our communities. So we just have to be honest about that from the outset. The second part is, there have been so many questions during this campaign. Are you going to be able to work across the aisle? And I kind of laugh at the question, because is there an across the aisle to work with? And you look at again, just what we saw during the State of the Union address, but then you take something just as simple as, hey, we are in a war against Iran. We've seen increased numbers of terrorist attacks in our nation over the last few weeks. And the Democrats aren't even willing to fund Homeland Security, the agency that was created to make sure our homeland is safe from terrorist attacks. And they'd rather have all of us in 8-hour lines at the airport than to again protect illegal immigrants, because it's a fight over ICE and illegal immigration. They'd rather do that than fund the agency that's required to protect us. The third thing that I'd offer is the SAVE Act.
Yeah.
This is an 80-20 issue across the nation. For those of you that don't know, the SAVE Act is legislation that would have you require that you be an American citizen to vote, something that everyone supports, and it would require you to have an ID. I kind of laugh because I've seen, I think, John Ossoff has maybe had events where you had to show an ID to get into, but they don't want you to have an ID to go in and vote. And this is an 80-20 issue. Republicans, Democrats supported 80-20, and Democrats won't vote for it. There were 0 Democrat votes on the One Big Beautiful Bill, which brought more money back into your pocket by no taxes on tips, no taxes on overtime, no tax on Social Security. I don't know if there's an other side to work with, first off. So I would say probably at this point, you're looking at the Falcons jersey. And I think I might have talked about this before. My first Falcons game ended with a Hail Mary victory over the 49ers, thrown by Billy Joe Tolliver, if any of y'all remember that name. And we might be at the point where it's Hail Mary time. I think we have to talk about the Article 5 Convention of the States. I have to really think through any sort of the risks that may be associated with doing it. But to fix that existential crisis, that may be the only option that we have at this point. So, yeah.
I got a quick one.
Yes, sir.
My mother represents and works with like mostly farmers in this county and a lot of them in the state of Georgia. And she goes to the Capitol and fights for, all the farming and whatever she knows more than I do. My and her question is, out of all these meetings she goes to, with the farmers, we were talking about it the other day. She said, this Harris guy, nobody ever heard anything about him until he started running for this office. He claims to be a farmer. She said, we don't know him.
Yeah.
And all the farmers that she talks to and speaks with, they're like, where's this farmer?
Yeah.
What does he do?
Yeah.
So, well, food thought.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And those are things, I don't know if you're on social media, raise those questions. I completely agree. So, no, I've been in this community fighting in courtrooms my entire career, making sure we're putting the worst criminals away. I've been on the front lines of this community trying to improve it. So if people in the agricultural industry and in farming are saying they don't know who this guy is, then I think it's definitely something people should be talking about. Yeah.
He's lied about one thing, was he?
Yeah.
Now, I have heard that the cows in his video were not his. I'm not accusing him of being a cattle thief or anything like that, but I have heard those cows were not his.
Yeah. They were registered Republicans, is that? Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Oh, sorry, I got behind you. I'll come back to you. Yep, sorry about that.
Let's not be too niche of the questions, but with the SAVE Act.
Yep.
So I've read the bill. I understand that as a married woman, my voting abilities are not at risk. I have all the documents in case I do need them, but even without them, I realize that that's not really risk. I have searched to try to find a sitting Republican actually explaining that when it says documents compliant with the Real ID process, that includes marriage licenses.
Yeah.
Could you make a video explaining that, or could you ask somebody else to, I don't understand. I feel like that's like their biggest sticking point right now, and they continue to focus on that. It's embarrassing as a woman.
Yes.
To continue to see this from educated women pushing this, knowing that there's even a clause in there, if you don't have their documentation, you can still be approved
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like they've covered everything in that bill, but for some reason, I don't know if it's because it's the legalese or what, like, it's not being communicated, and I have not seen any conservative, besides Caroline Levitt, halfway try to explain it.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
I feel like there's nobody
yeah.
actually trying to explain why this bill does not put married women at risk. They're just saying that it doesn't, and that kind of comes off as like, kind of like we'll let you know what it says once we pass it. Like, they I'm kind of getting that same vibe, even though that's not what it is.
Yeah.
That's just a recommendation from me. I feel like somebody actually who's in the process, explaining it on a video in very simple language. I would share that all over the place.
Okay.
Maybe somebody would understand it, because I'm just so frustrated with that being the problem. It's not even a problem. I don't understand why people, why they can't read it. I feel like it's spelled out. It's not even a question of, could we change the bill's language to delineate this, because like, it spells it out properly already.
We already have it in Georgia, so.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And just so you know, that's actually, when you're in a closing argument as a prosecutor, there are things that you never want to take for granted that your jury will understand. Basic things from, we've all heard the term beyond reasonable doubt, but sometimes you have to explain that thoroughly to a jury, just to make sure that once they get in that deliberation room, they have an understanding of what their job is and what it means. So I spent my entire career kind of taking complex terms that people have a general understanding of, and then giving them examples to make sure that they have an understanding of how to apply it in the situation that they have. So I think that's probably a pretty easy video to make, and it's just kind of shocking to even feel like we have to do it. But honestly, with the other side, we actually, in that video, I'll have to define what a woman is,
Yeah.
Right.
which
Hopefully you can do that.
for sure I can. The other side may disagree with my definition of that, but that's the bizarre world that we're in. But no, I think you're exactly right, and that's part of their strategy, is just create confusion and chaos on basic understandings of legislation.
Somebody like Hillary Clinton, who's Yale educated, then if you don't have a side and you're seeing somebody that went to Yale of all places, like, you're gonna assume that they know the law and they understand how to read a bill.
Yep.
So if she's telling you that this bill doesn't say you can use a marriage certificate, then
Yep.
you're gonna assume that she knows what she's talking about.
Sure, yeah.
So if people don't take that extra step, then I can absolutely understand why so many women are concerned, and I feel like they're saying so much about it, and nobody, they're all, that's not the problem if they're not really explaining.
No, you're right.
Thank you.
And the only thing that I said are kind of high level support comments about it. So we'll definitely try to put some specifics about it. So yes, sir.
Yeah, Clay, I don't have a question, but I just wanted to ask you, how are you doing on time?
I'm good right now. I got a couple more questions. I'll take a couple more. So yeah, thank you. Yes, sir.
In the election, vote total was about 69% of all Republicans, and whatever the difference was for Mr. Harris. Two-part question, if you would, please. Have you had conversations with all the Republicans, so-called Republicans, that were in the election, and have you gotten commitment from them to encourage their voters to support you? That's one part. And are there any polling numbers that you can share of what the situation appears to be right now? If you have somebody traveling with you, I need to have a word with them before y'all leave.
Yes, sir. So there's Jackson in the terrible Auburn hat back there. So I don't know if I really trust him. So he'll be a good person to talk to on any sort of information. Right now, to be honest, the election that we're in heading into April 7th, it should be 60-40 at the lowest. But that's going to depend on people being focused and turning out the vote.
That's right.
So the victory is there, but again, we just in Georgia 14, we've gotten complacent before. We just can't get complacent again. We're just making sure that people need to have a plan on either voting early this next week or being there to vote on April 7th. But the victory is there for us to take. The other part of it, you're exactly right. This is the time for the Republican Party to heal. We had a hard-fought jungle primary, and I think people are getting an understanding of no one wants a Democrat to win in Georgia 14. But I'm still trying to communicate with other campaigns to get their endorsement and get their support heading into April 7th. then hopefully getting their support heading into May 19th, because I think it's now time, because we had a number of people who said they were Trump Republicans or 100% Trump. And Trump has spoken in this race, and I got 58% of the vote on March 10th. So it's now time for us to all come together and make sure that we're defeating the radical left. I hope it'll happen, but we'll see.
This is not a question, but I just want to tell everybody, we're all social, we get on social. So this is what I'm asking you to do, is get on social. Put Clay's picture up there and put the dates that we're gonna vote. And tell the Republicans to get out. They've got to get out and vote for him, because if we don't, the other might happen, and God forbid that we get him in the 14th district. So use your social media and get it out.
You know, you said that Trump was no felon, but really he is, because if the Democrats take the House again, it's gonna be his first term all over again.
You're right. Yeah, it'll be the impeachment circus. So yeah, you're exactly right. Yes, sir.
And she has never had a problem registered to vote, even though we're in the second marriage, and she liked the thing about it. And you know, we both vote if there's an election.
So we went to Real
Yes,
ID,
sir.
what, 10 years ago? When you had to take even a bill.
My question is
to get
this,
your job.
and it affects all of us in here, most of us are over 60. Hearing aids. Hearing aids not covered by Medicare. And hearing aids are expensive. And 65, that's the last time that was changed in Medicare, when Medicare was invented, as far as the cost of hearing aids. Hearing aids are $5,000 a piece. A lot of us are on fixed income. Medicare's not covering that. That should be covered by the Health Administration. Because that's really, increases our ability in life. We can't hear.
Yeah.
We go back because, you know, you can't be somewhere. So, you know, without yeah, I can come up with $5,000 to pay for a hearing aid, but in my insurance would pay me half of it back. But how is that fair to me? I mean, hearing aids are important, and that should be something that's covered by the Health Administration.
And I don't know the specific reason why they are. So as soon as I'm in, I know Jackson heard it, we'll take that question down, and I'll get the answer, and if there's a way that we can fix it and get it covered, I agree with you. It's something that should be, and it's one of those nightmare things when government is involved in something, they make random policy choices that make very little sense and negatively impact people. So I'll try to fix it.
And I've done a lot of research on this.
Okay.
And this is neither here nor there, but for it to pay for a man to have
Don't say it.
operation. Yeah. Being have sex, I'm sorry, it'll pay 100% of that, but it won't pay for a hearing aid.
Yeah,
I mean, that makes no sense.
absolutely.
Bad priorities.
What did you say? If you spend on that.
Is this when I say I hear you? I hear you.
Me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I just wanted to answer Larry's question for everybody. I was at a meeting about a week and a half ago, and Jim Cully from Floyd County, you all know him probably. Yeah, Paulding, sorry, thank you. He stood up in front of a room full of about 200 people and said, "I'm here because I'm backing Clay Fuller 100%." I just felt like crying. That's the kind of politicians we need in America. And on the other hand, I got a phone call yesterday or the day before that people down at the Capitol are hearing one of the people who ran say negative things about you and ask them to vote Harris.
Yes.
And they were Republicans, supposedly,
Yeah.
that person. So,
And so my job now is to sit down with everyone, tell them, hey, look, it was hard fought. Let's all unite, because there are too many more important things than any sort of personal differences that we may have had, and we'll get there. I have faith that we'll get there. So yeah, because everybody on our side, they're good people, and you work hard in a campaign, you care about a candidate. I get it. I totally understand. So we'll get on side. Yes, ma'am.
Good.
In response to the young lady back here, when you make your video to tell about women can vote, the Real ID, when that first started coming out on the news, I investigated what's a Real ID, and I had gone recently and got my driver's license renewed, and it turns out that it has the little star that is a Real ID, and that's all you need to have. So add that. That's just what you get if you have proven who you are.
Hey, Georgia
And
wants
then
it one
I
time.
wanted to say that Jim was my guy, okay?
Oh, yeah.
And he came out immediately and endorsed you, so I thought that was
And
awesome.
Pam Cash in Floyd Peters, Pam Flesh, you know, she came out the next
Yeah.
day and she's got people waving signs with you and doing all good
And
stuff.
How did Gina Turner?
Yeah, there are a number of candidates that were in the race, and they've been incredible. So, yeah.
I wanted to add something else. At the Capitol, they're hearing that people are calling and saying, vote for Harris, because in a few months, they'll have seen how bad he is versus
Right.
whoever. But yeah, so we need to make sure that our friends and neighbors know the truth.
Yes.
Always know the truth.
And get out the vote.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
I'm a Christian. I think most people in this district are Christians. A lot of people are driven by that faith. A lot of people are very passionate about seeing that faith come back in education, religious freedom, and what that stems from, you know, that federal level. I would like to know your opinion on, school choice for all, and incentivizing churches, not only, you know, small private schools, but also churches, to start having their own schools, you know, join in the community and do that. In my opinion, the public education system is probably never gonna happen. But there's a lot of other ways to get Christianity back in front of our youth. And if we don't, we may never. And I think that's why you see the mass exodus out of a lot of public schools, but I would like your opinion on that.
Yeah, first off, I think every institution that we have should be Christ-centered. And that's been my campaign. The first thing that I said on March 10th, I said Christ is king. That should be every conversation that we should be having, every public institution that should be where we are. There's kind of this false notion where the left has misused this term of separation of church and state. That was never what it was intended to mean. And I think Christ should be a part of our public institutions, whether it's schools. You know, I support having the 10 Commandments in our courtrooms and our courthouses. I support prayer at public sporting events. It needs to be a major part of everything that we do. It should be because some of the kids in our public schools, that may be the only introduction that they get to this. So I want to make sure that it is a part of it. And the other part for school choice, so I've been endorsed by the Club for Growth. That's an organization that has really led the school choice movement. I fully support it. And one of the things that I will hope to do, I know it's going to be a difficult task, the federal Department of Education, I want to see it just completely destroyed. I want to take the billions of dollars that we spend on the Department of Education with, you know, six-figure PhDs in DC who do nothing to improve our education, block grant that money back to the states, because the best education system that we can have is going to be in the home. The parent is the one that controls our education. They need to be able to have that choice, and y'all need to control education from a local standpoint. So I want to empower school choice and making sure that local communities have that ability to define the education system that they want. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you so much, y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.